All right, hello. I'm going to try to teach you how to make a teapot via video. All right, so first things first, some things that you're gonna need. You're gonna need your sketch of your teapot. I did a few little sketches. You're going to need a rolling pin, most likely. I forgot to bring home a fettling knife, so I'm gonna use a butter knife. And just some various tools depending on if you're going to do any carving, anything like that. You're going to need your water and your sponge, and you're going to need your canvas mat. For my table, since I have a wooden table down here, I'm working in my basement, and I actually have a wooden table upstairs too. So I found this piece of plastic. You could use a tarp. Just don't ruin your table, in case you spill something. Clay washes off of everything, but I just didn't want my table to get all wet. So I found this piece of plastic and I put it down on here. You're gonna obviously need your clay and maybe a towel, dirty rag towel in case your hands get dirty. I have this teapot that I got at a thrift store. I'm gonna try to kind of do this sort of shape too. So that's why I brought it out as well, so you can kind of see. First things first, when we make these teapots, this is one way of making them. You could really do it any way you want. I'm going to show you this technique, which is basically I'm going to be taking 2 pinch pots and putting them together, and then I'm going to shape it with a wooden spoon. That's what I forgot. I need a wooden spoon. And my metal rib. I'll have to find that because I think I have that somewhere. Anyway. We're going to take 2 pinch pots, put them together, and then we're going to shape it with a wooden spoon, and then we're going to cut out the hole for the top for the lid, and we're going to make a spout and any sort of footing and the handle. So before we do that, you are going to have to make something. I didn't pack any slip for you guys, I don't think, so you're going to have to make some slip. And basically what you're going to want to do is get a plastic container, get little pieces of clay, put them in the container, and then you're just going to add water. I'll just show you how lovely this looks. Can't really see very well. Just make sure that you don't pack the clay down in here, and there's a lot of water on there. After you let it sit for a few days, you can pour the water out and then you've got slip, or just dig down in the water and get the slip out of there, whatever works for you. Oh wait, look, I do have my metal rib. Whatever, I'm going crazy. All right, so we don't need the spoon yet, so I'll get that later. I think I packed some spoons for you guys. And like I said, if you have a wooden spoon at home if I didn't give you one and your parents are okay with you using it, it washes off, like clay washes off with everything. So that being said, once you have all of your stuff, you're going to want to get 2 pieces of clay, well, bigger than pieces, chunks of clay, the same size before you start making one of the pinch pots. The reason for this is you want them to be the same size. So if you had one and you started making it and you had that pinch pot all done, it's really hard to gauge what size it was when you started. So that's why you start with 2 the same size. These are kind of large. I don't, obviously you being home, you can make a teapot whichever size you want. If you want to try and make a tiny one, that's cute too. I'm okay with that as long as you're working and making something and attempting something. I'm cool with that. So I'm going to do a little review on making a pinch pot. So I'm going to move a little bit closer and start with a ball of clay. And then you're going to start with your thumb and you're going to put your thumb in the clay, but not all the way through. You want to make sure that you leave some space. So, and then you're going to make a turning motion. I'm turning it towards myself, and my thumb is in the bottom here. And it's not like pinching like this, because then you're going to get a lot of dents. My thumb is like kind of rowing the boat, it's like smoothing, and these fingers are just supporting the outside. And you want to make sure that you get the bottom area first, so this part isn't really thick. Because otherwise, if you smooth it out too quickly on the inside and you're kind of like basically spreading the clay out, you can kind of see now that's getting bigger. And if you, like I said, if you smooth out too close to the top where your thumb just went in, you'll end up like, it'll be like a plate or a bowl. So you want to make sure that you start in the bottom, and you know, your thumb's probably going to be sore after this because it's kind of a workout for your thumb, actually. So you see, it's getting a little better. And then you can, I'm switching hands because my thumb's tired. So then you can start to work your way up towards the opening of the pinch pot. And you kind of want a bowl shape anyway. That teapot I'm trying to recreate is pretty round. So if you wanted more of a tall teapot, you could have it be a little more of an oval, but it really doesn't matter because you're going to be shaping it with the wooden spoon anyway when we put them together. So eventually your pinch pot's going to start to look like this. And if it's too much clay and your thumb isn't long enough to get in there, you can, you know, use your fingers to kind of start to pinch out the sides. And you want to make sure that you don't make the walls too thin. If you do, because you have to do it all by feel, because you can't really tell by singing how thick the walls are. So if your walls are too thin, you just take a piece of fresh clay, patch it on the inside, smooth it with your thumb, and then that should fix that problem. If you find that the clay is cracking around the edge, that's okay, because we're going to put slip there eventually anyway. That doesn't have to look beautiful. These aren't going to be like mugs that we're going to be drinking out of, so that really doesn't matter. So the key when you make both your pinch pots is that you want the opening to be the same on both sides. So once I made this one, then they would have to be able to fit together. So that's your pinch pot. And if it looks more like a bowl, like I said, that's okay too, because we're going to put the two together. Just, you don't really want like a flat plate, because that's not going to be a very nice teapot. It's going to be like a flying saucer. So, and it's going to be a lot harder for you. Also, if you do happen to, if your pinch pot happens to like flare out a little bit too much, you can always take your knife and cut a pizza wedge out of one side and the other side. And if the clay is still soft, see I've got my pizza wedge, opposite sides, then you sort of overlap them a little bit. See, like that, like a little fold. And on the other side too. And you just smooth it back together. And then that will sort of close in the opening. And then if it's still too wide, but you know, like I said, only if it's like really flaring out do you need to do that. Like, because these aren't going to be mugs, it's going to be a sphere, the whole thing when we put it together. So in the next video, I will show you how to put the two pieces together. Once you have made both your pinch pots, you're going to want to let them set. So it's kind of like when we made the houses, you want to make sure that they're dry enough to sort of hold their shape to go together, but not so dry that if you paddle it with a spoon, they're going to like crack. So I guess like leather hard. You should still be able to move the clay, but it shouldn't be so soft that when you handle it, it like falls apart in your hands. So I'm going to let my pinch pots set a little while, then I'm going to come back and I'll show you how to put them together.